What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Never miss an episode of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Kyle Wright, who is on his way to a big day. He had 6 Ks in 3 innings, giving up only 2 hits and no runs. And then the rain came, which seemed to be the only thing that was going to stop Wright this day. His curveball was disgusting, very Charlie Morton-like. But after a long rain delay, he didn't come back out to pitch. Because you're part of Ninja Nation, here's Kyle Wright's knuckle curve grip.
It's the same grip I've always had. I go into the horseshoe here, and I just go with the simple spike. Curveballs, the harder they are, they tend to perform better. So for me, my goal is just grab it and let it rip.
Wright faced off against Braxton Garrett, who also is really good. He had 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up only 1 hit, and had these sliders. Logan Webb had 7 Ks in 6 2/3 innings, giving up 2 runs, and had these fastballs and changeups. That changeup is nasty. And he also had these sliders. And here's his slider from a home plate view. And this really shows you how tough it is to hit. I really wish broadcasts included home plate views more often. He faced off against Miles Michaelis, who had 6 Ks in 6 1/3 scoreless innings. He had these front door 2-seamers. This 2-seamer that, well, it kind of knocked on the front door, didn't quite get there. And also had a wicked slider and this pretty curveball. Tyler Mahle had 6 Ks in 4 innings, giving up only 1 run. Had these fastballs, sliders, and splitters. Kyle Gibson had 3 Ks in 4 1/3 innings, thanks to his breaking balls and changeup. Joey Wentz had 6 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, giving up 2 runs. Had these changeups and fastball. Joey Lucchesi had 3 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. His cutter and 2-seamer. And he faced off against Trevor Williams, who had 4 Ks in 5 innings, but gave up 4 runs. He relied on his 4-seam fastball and this sinker, which was pretty nasty. Hayden Wesneski had 3 Ks in 5 innings, giving up only 1 run, and had these wicked breaking balls. Julio Urias had 5 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, giving up 6 runs. He had this breaking ball and fastball, and his ERA now is 4.41 after winning the ERA title last year. His stuff isn't nearly as sharp this year. He faced off against Mitch Keller, who was outstanding with 10 strikeouts in 6 innings, giving up only 2 runs. He had his fastball working, included these elevated 2-seamers, and even got a bend the knee on a fastball, and had this totally painted fastball. But he didn't just dominate with his fastball, he also mixed in some of these sweepers. Keller looks like he's starting to put it all together, and the Pirates' pitching has been magic this year. Dylan Cease kind of struggled. He only had 3 Ks in 4 innings, giving up 7 runs, and 6 of them were earned. Not really what we expect from a Dylan Cease outing. He did have these wicked sliders and got a sword on one. He battled Shane McClanahan, who wasn't quite as good as he was his last outing, but still was very good. He had 5 Ks in 5 innings, giving up only 2 runs. His ERA this year is now 2.12. He, of course, relied on his upper 90s fastball, his slider, and curveball. But that changeup that was so outstanding last outing, he really just couldn't find the feel for it this outing. He only had 2 whiffs on it. And that's one of those things with changeups. Sometimes the feel just goes and then comes back. Still, a solid outing from Sugar Shane. Matt Strahm was really good again. He had 5 Ks in 5 2/3 scoreless innings, giving up only 2 hits. He relied on his slider, cutter, and fastball, and got a K on this elevated fastball and got fired up. He battled George Kirby, who probably had the most effective outing yesterday, going 8 innings with 7 Ks on only 89 pitches. He certainly would have come out to pitch the 9th. But there was no 9th because his team lost 1-0. So the Phillies, the home team, didn't need to hit in the 9th inning. But Kirby was great. He had his 96, 97 mile an hour fastball and painted with it. He had this front door 2-seamer, this hammer curveball, getting a knee buckle, and overall was just really sharp. His ERA this season is now 2.93. And here's an overlay of Kirby's fastball and that curveball. And you can see how fast that curveball gets out of the swing path compared to that fastball. Gerrit Cole had a very good outing with 8 strikeouts in 6 2/3 innings, giving up only 2 runs. He really dominated with his fastball, getting both swinging strikes and painting with it. And worked in his slider and changeup, getting a sword with the changeup. A very workmanlike outing from Cole. He didn't have his best stuff, but even without his best stuff, he's still really good. And he outdueled Andrew Heaney, who had 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 3 runs, and got Ks on his elevated fastball and slider. J.P. Sears had 4 Ks in 4 1/3 innings, did give up 6 runs, and had these breaking balls. And he was up against yesterday's filthiest pitcher of the day, not in a traditional sense though, Shohei Ohtani. I say not in a traditional sense because Ohtani was awesome for nearly the entire game. And when I say awesome, for 5 of his 6 innings that he pitched, he gave up only 1 base runner total. But in the 4th inning this game, he kind of had an epic collapse. It's almost like his superpowers got stolen. He couldn't locate anything, and everything he threw in the zone was getting hit. And if the pitch wasn't in the zone, it was hitting a batter. He gave up all 3 of his hits this inning, 2 of them being home runs and another being a double, and had 2 hit by pitches and 2 walks. And Shohei, being ever the meme, gave his "this really isn't my inning" face. Or as someone said on Twitter, it's more like I'm trying to push out a big log, and it drops and the water hits me. I'm sorry, that's way too much information. But now back to great Shohei, because every other inning of this game, he was dominant. His sweepers were outstanding. He even got swings in the other batter's box. I mean, look at this sweeper. It ends up midway in the opposite batter's box, and he gets a swing and miss. That's how filthy he is. He also got a K on a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. And Shohei just moves so well on the mound. It's like poetry. Even in that 4th inning, where he had a terrible inning, he still had some highlights. He just got angrier and angrier, throwing harder and harder fastballs, touching 101, and then ended up getting a K with a sweeper, of course. But the equally big story this game was that Shohei almost hit for a cycle while he was pitching. No starting pitcher in the history of baseball had ever hit for the cycle. And it was almost a natural cycle, meaning he almost got a single, double, triple, and home run in order. He started out with this, where he somehow gets a hit, despite only having half a bat and reaching for the ball. He definitely shows off his wheels. Next, he got a double, followed it up with this triple, and in his last at bat, he hit this ball that literally everybody thought was a home run, except the baseball. So all around, Shohei was definitely the most outstanding player of the day, even with that horrible 4th inning for him. And I'll leave you with one more Shohei meme. Shohei is basically every kid in class who raised his hand to answer his teacher's question and then realized he wasn't paying any attention to anything the teacher said. Or like if the boss asks for volunteers for some big project, but then tells you the project is to clean out the break room because we have important guests coming in today. Basically, Shohei has the same energy as the famous John Travolta meme from Pulp Fiction. Both look so confused. Now on to my filthiest relievers. Dylan Floro had these sinkers. Michael Fulmer had this sweeper and 2-seamer. Craig Kimbrell had this overpowering 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Dylan Lee had this fastball and slider. Colin McHugh had this wicked sweeper. Nick Anderson had this curveball and got the sword. Gregory Soto had this vicious slider. Felix Bautista had these splitters and fastball. Brock Stewart got this sweeper and sword. Michael King had this 95-mile-an-hour paint. Brent Honeywell had this screwball, and here's a close-up view of his release on that screwball. You can see how much he pronates that thing. And my filthiest reliever of the day was Jhoan Duran with these hammer curveballs. And of course, his infamous K-skips. And now, my pitching ninja moment of zen. We all know Kodai Senga is great with the ghost fork, but he's not so great with the spitter. What is up, everybody? My picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to start it with Pablo Lopez for 7 Ks or more, Then take Grayson Rodriguez for 6 Ks or more, and top it off with Luis Castillo for 6 Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?